The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
He said there was a fellow who was 38 years old. He'd been in Shidduchim for more than a decade, and he just hadn't found his bashert. He dated many, many girls. When someone told him that there was a particular Rav who was very holy, very heilig, very special, and that if he went to him and he got a bracha and he followed his advice, many people had tremendous yeshuas in the areas of Shidduchim, he has to follow his advice. So he goes and he visits this Rav, and he cries to the Rav and he says to him, I'm 38 years old. My friends are already parents many times over. They're making bar mitzvahs for their kids, bas mitzvahs for their daughters. And me, I'm still a single guy. You got to help me. And the Rav heard this fellow's pleas, and he says to him, listen, I want to give you a piece of advice. I want you to say Perek Shira for 40 days. We all know Perek Shira speaks about the different aspects of creation, all sing their own unique and individual Shira to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a school for many different things. I want you to say Perek Shira for 40 days, but don't say it. Say it like every fiber of your being is reliant on that Perek Shira. Daven it. Flee with it. Get into it. Learn what it means. A lot of people have had Yeshuas that way. This fellow takes it to heart, and he gets a Perek Shira with Pirushim and Mefarshim, and he learns it, and each day he puts it all out on the field as he says Perek Shira with focus and concentration. 40 days pass. He's sitting there by the phone waiting for the Shadchan to call that perfect Shidduch that's for sure, and nothing happens. That very day, the day ends, he goes back to the Rav. And he says to the Rav, it's 40 days and nothing happened. The Rav said, I think you gotta do another 40 days. Those first 40 days. But you have to do the second set of 40 days with even more kavanah than you did the first 40. It'll be a build-up. On the first 40, you build another 40. You all know the number 40 is a number of transformation from one reality to the other. 2 times 40 is a total transformation to a new reality. The guy goes, and if you think he davened, he said Perek Shira, and he learned it, and he had kavanah when he said it the first 40 days, the second 40 days were le'ela u le'ela. 40 days passed, not one phone call in those 40 days for Shidduch. But day 40 is over, he waits the whole day, maybe someone's going to call, garnished, nothing. Goes back to the Rav and he says to him, hello, 80 days of Perek Shira, and nothing. The Rav says, listen, you got to do one last time. I don't know, I've seen it work by other people, I'm not sure why it's not working for you, but you got to try one more time. And if you think you did it with kavanah, focus, and concentration the first 80 days, you totally gotta take it up a few notches, like you can't imagine. Even you don't know what you're capable of doing. And the fellow again takes Perek Shira, and he learns it, and he darshans it, and he says it, and as it speaks about the different shiras of the Levyasan, and of the wheat, and of the birds, and the fish, Imam tries to be Mishabeach HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He spends a good 45 minutes, an hour on Perek Shira every day. 40 days straight. On day number 40, his phone rings, and it's a shadchan. And she says, I know you've been looking for a long time. I have a wonderful girl. She's 38 years old, same age like you. You have to meet her, look into her. He looks into this young lady. Everything sounds perfect. They go out. Within 5 or 6 dates, they get engaged. He goes back to this Rav who advised him about the 40, and the 40. And he thanks him so much, says, I'd love you to come to my Vart. I feel like you were a big part of it. The Rav comes to the Vart, and it's a beautiful Vart. Such simcha. 2 38-year-olds get engaged. They've been looking for decades. At the Vart, the father of the Kala gets up to speak. And he says, Ribono Shel Olam, master of the universe, can't even think of the right sentiments to thank you for your incredible chesed. He says, I had 3 older daughters, a 44-year-old, a 41-year-old, and a 38-year-old. He says, 80 days ago, my first daughter got engaged. 40 days ago, my second daughter got engaged. And 40 days later tonight, my third daughter got engaged. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, manoi maru manedaberein lanu peh. There's nothing I can see. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. For so many years, we davened for our older kids to get engaged. And within 120 days, all 3 of them got engaged. Wow. And this Rav that had advised Perek Shira gets up there. He says, I'd like to say a few words. I want to share with you something amazing. 120 days ago, approximately a little more than 120 days ago, plus a few weeks of dating, this guy came to me and he asked me to say Perek Shira. He asked me what he should do, and I said, say Perek Shira. He said it for 40 days and nothing happened. You know why nothing happened? Because she had 2 older sisters. And the Rebbe says, I can't let Seira Lifnei Habechira. On the spot, his Tefilas worked, and the oldest girl got engaged. 40 more days. He said, Rebbe, it's not working. I told him to. After 40 days, the Rebbe said, it really should work, but the second girl's not engaged. The second girl got engaged. He says, 40 days later, it was finally time for the tefillah to work for this fellow. And he davened, and look, Baruch Hashem, Yeshua Hashem is here. They should be able to build a beautiful, beautiful Yiddish home. We think sometimes when we daven that the Rebbe Shalom is not listening, or he's not answering, or he's not responding. It's not true. We don't know the cheshbon of the Rebbe Shalom, but every tefillah that we daven for impacts, it saves, it preserves, it brings salvation, and it brings Yeshua. In the city of Yerushalayim, there was a tzaddik, a Talmid Chacham, and his name was Reb Baruch Hyman. And he one time shared with his friends and family a fantastic, amazing story. He said, you should know that in one of the secular kibbutzim in the north of Eretz Yisrael, there was a woman, and both her and her husband had zero connection, in essence, to Yiddishkeit. But this woman remembered that her mother used to light Shabbos candles. And when she lit Shabbos candles, she would daven for her children. And this was the one time in the week that she did anything having to do with Torah mitzvahs. Yahar Val Yavar, it would come before Shabbos, she would light Shabbos candles, and she would daven for her children. This woman's last name was Giveret Aaron, that was her last name, and she was married to a fellow by the name of Zalman Aaron. Zalman Aaron at some point became the Sarah Chinuch. He became the Minister of Education in Israel under the Prime Ministership of David Ben-Gurion. Now when she davened for her children in front of those candles, she davened that they should become great. What was greatness in her and her husband's perspective? Ben-Gurion. So she used to daven for her children that my child, my Moishela, my Itzikol, they should one day be like that great, great man, David Ben-Gurion. And she davened that way for many years. When David Ben-Gurion went to visit the Chazon Ish for the very, very historic conversation where the Chazon Ish tried to change his mind about drafting Jewish girls and he was successful, Ben-Gurion came back to his cabinet and he pulled over his childhood friend Zalman. He said, Zalman, I have to tell you something. I was blown away by meeting with the Chazon Ish. I've never in my life had the opportunity to interact with such greatness. His humility, his depth, his holiness was a totally different level. I've never seen anything like this. The man is a giant. Zalman heard this. He was very inspired by what Ben-Gurion told him. And he goes back home up north to the kibbutz to his wife and he shares the conversation. All of a sudden she says, you mean so there's somebody greater than Ben-Gurion? He says, yeah, it's the Chazon Ish, Rabbi Avram Yeshaya Karelitz. So she says, you know what? Then I'm going to start davening for the children on Friday evenings. And when I light the Shabbos candles, I'm not going to daven for that it should be like Ben-Gurion. I want to go all the way to the top. I'm going to daven they should be like the Chazon Ish. So Baruch Hyman shared, he says, you know who the grandson of Zalman Aaron is? It's me. And those tears that my grandmother, that secular grandmother davened, first they should be like Ben-Gurion, but eventually, like the Chazon Ish, they had a Rishon. And take a look. We have grandchildren who are all Shomer Torah mitzvahs. It took time for those tefillas to come to fruition, but they eventually came to fruition. And take a look. Banim u'bnei banim, oiskim b'Torah u'b'mitzvahs.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org